Okay, this is the November 30th meeting of the AWS Cluster API provider. We're abiding by the CNCF Code of Conduct and be excellent to each other. We're using the raise hand feature, so if you can use that, it should be on the bottom of the participants panel if you want to raise your hand. And just start off with one PSA that we did release the 06.3. It's mostly bug fixes for the unmanaged mode. So if you're running on EC2 rather than EKS. Yeah, don't have much else. It was a quiet week last week because of Thanksgiving. So I've got 2 items for the agenda. First of all, we run Alpha 4 on main branch. So SEDF is working on a PR that will move all our types to rerun Alpha 4. And the idea is that our main branch, master branch going forward will be on rerun Alpha 4. We do have the release 0.6 branch as well. So cluster API's backport policy, and Andy, keep me honest on it, is I believe no new features on V1 Alpha 3 and bug fixes only back on to V1 Alpha 3, which is a release 0.3 branch for Cluster API. Now, I'm okay for that, but also I want to, like, we do have the EKS provider, which is relatively new, and and if you're doing stuff around that and there's ongoing work that needs to be done with that, I don't know if I just want to make sure that it's okay with everyone. Should we have exactly that same policy, or do we want to have more something like a consensus on certain backports? Andy?
Right, so we've kind of, I wouldn't say gone in circles, but had some struggles conceptually with what do we do with the Alpha 3 branches, given that Alpha 4 on the main branch is several months out. And specifically, I'm referring to adding functionality that is not just a bug fix. And I know that there was a Slack thread a week and a half ago. I think Vince and Cecile were in there, maybe some other folks too. And I think if I can summarize what I remember reading, which makes sense to me, is that it's up to the maintainers to decide if there are things that are worth cherry picking back to an older branch. And that generally is how Kubernetes works. Kubernetes is probably stricter than we might be, given that Kubernetes does have a very consistent, stable 3 to 4 times a year release process, depending on where they end up on that decision. So 4 times a year. So given that we aren't there yet, I think it's appropriate for each project's maintainers to decide, oh, there's a new feature, it's not a breaking change, it's optional, it's okay to backport it. We must not make any breaking changes when we do backports, and the flow should be that a new feature gets merged to the main branch first, and then there's a discussion as to whether it should be backported. And then if the answer is yes, it can be backported. Vince, would you add anything to that?
No, you pretty much like sum it up real nice. I have a branch locally to actually change the contributing guide. There isn't actually anything that actually says like that we are bug fixes only, but I wanted to reword some of the backporting code in here that like pretty much says like we only want to backward bug fixes, but like I want to say also non-breaking features. So they were less strict and more open to backporting like small features if they're no breaking, and that means like both from an API and behavioral point of view. So yeah, those both should apply.
Thanks for that. Anyone else got comments, or is that general consensus to proceed with opening up for V1 Alpha 4? We will continue to backport on a case-by-case basis, and as far as who the maintainers go, I think that ties it quite neatly into the next topic. So no, okay, fine. Okay, so the reviews list. So I had I keep forgetting to bring it up in meetings. So I've got there's a very old PR. I'll start sharing my screen actually. That'll make sense, right? Not feeling like it today. All right. So the PR that I just linked in there is got the old PR, and I think if I can remember correctly, it's going to move Chuck to Emeritus, clean up the SIG Cluster Lifecycle Leads memberships, add Richard as a maintainer, and Michael Beaumont as a reviewer. I think is that, and I was just some general cleanup. And I think Sadef as also proposing to add Sadef as a reviewer in a separate PR. They've been open for ages. I mean, I think I also want to add Dane as well as a reviewer. But other than that, like, yeah, basically we need some more reviewers. At the moment, there's not many people who can approve who are actively working on the project, and I'm constantly struggling looking for other people to approve my PRs, especially at the moment. So it's quite self-interested on my part as well. If you could give your +1s to those PRs, I will add Dane to that list as well. And I might merge Celeste's PR into it. So we just got one PR. Unless there's any objections, should we say end of the week? There's a thumbs up from Andy. Any objections to doing that? All right, cool. Next one is Richard. Label for ADR required.
Yeah, it's just really self-explanatory, really, that where we decided we were going to do ADRs for decisions that didn't require a proposal, so more lightweight decisions, whether we just mark issues with the label, so it's quite explicit that an ADR is needed. Just really a suggestion.
Andy.
What's an ADR?
It's an architectural decision record, so it's more like it's a lightweight decision that someone's made. We want to keep a record of it for the reasons why and the context behind that decision. And maybe it wasn't like a massive piece of work that required a proposal, but we just want to make sure that things don't get lost and the reasons behind them.
Thanks. Where are they going to be stored?
Currently, they're in the docs folder. And there's a separate ADR subfolder in there with a template.
Yeah, so this came about after some roundabout discussions on Slack, which touched old topics where we had come to a decision in a comment in an issue, but we haven't necessarily documented it. Like, as it's not big enough to form a CEP or anything. It's just we've made a behavioral decision, but it's not recorded anywhere formally. This is just the way that we can formally record those decisions, and we're going to try it in Kappa. It might be useful for the other projects going forth. But we're going to give it a go. I think you've opened one example, haven't you, Richard? You've opened the first one.
Yeah, I opened the first one, and then two today. One was around the packaging of the EKS components that we discussed probably about beginning of last month, and one's around just a reorganization of why we reorganized the end-to-end tests into packages.
Yeah, I think that's fine. Do we just create the label? There's no machinery we need to do with SIGs or anything. I think we can just go ahead and create it, isn't it?
I don't know if they get deleted, but test infra does have labels syncing voodoo magic. So, I mean, it's just a job that there's a YAML file and you can say what label names and colors you want per repo. And then I don't know how often it runs, but it might be that we need to do it in there.
All right. Richard, do you want to go check, have a look in test info, see if that's a thing that we need to do?
Yep. Okay. Yeah, there's.
I think I can create a label, so I'll just create it, and then you can go and check if there's something that goes ahead.
So I think there was. I think you created one a while back for Oktoberfest because someone requested it, so I can just see if that one's been removed. So yeah, I'll do that.
Do you want to take the next one, ECAS, E2E8?
Yeah, really, it was just to say that I've been a bit slack in rebasing the EKS end-to-end tests after the end-to-end test reorg was merged in about 2 weeks ago. So I'm going to get that done this week. So the EKS end-to-end test will be hopefully there by Friday. And just to apologize for being a bit slack on that rebase.
No problems. And thanks for moving out the suites. I think it makes it much easier to test the Kappa overall without using the Jinko filters. Andy, you got the next one?
Yeah, I noticed, I guess sometime last week, Gab had reopened the issue about upgrading. This was what, from Alpha 2 to Alpha 3, and the defaulting and validation for the insecure skip secrets manager. And I know that we had a PR that supposedly fixed this. So I think somebody probably needs to follow up with Gab and figure out what scenario he was testing. So given that we had marked this one as critical urgent, I figured it was worth bringing it up today.
Sure, I'll follow up given I did that last PR. I'll now look. And yeah, does anyone else got anything else? I don't think there's anything else to say about that. I'll take a look. Richard, developer focused documentation.
Yeah, it was just really, there's been a couple of new contributors and they've encountering the same issues that I've previously encountered when I first started. You know, things like cloning into, making sure you clone into GoPath. Otherwise, the code generation doesn't generate properly, and then the verification test fails. So is that common stuff that people, I guess, fall into every single time and sort of have to re-mention it every single time on issues and Slack? So it'd be quite good to actually have developer contributing docs. This is how we set up the environment, etc., and stuff like that. So I did raise an issue and just put that as the first one and a getting started guide. But I guess if there's any other topics that we could add, we could add it to the issue.
Yeah, that'd be great. I think for quite a few of us, we've been probably developing too long and probably not aware of or forgotten those sort of first setup issues. So it would be great to get that sorted. And I think it's fine to go in the book, actually. I mean, we've got the developing section, so yeah, great. Right, is there anything else? Oh. Right, just to let you know, I have finally uploaded the last couple of Zoom calls. I will add links to the doc I will upload this one straight afterwards as well, so should be up to date on the recordings. Thanks a lot, everyone. See you in 2 weeks.